The new Killswitch Engage came out, and a lot of people are already talking about it. So I've been hearing a few different things. Some people are saying it's their best album in years, while others are saying they played it too safe. But for me, it's somewhere in between, so let's talk about that today. Killswitch Engage is probably one of the biggest or most well-known metalcore bands out there. They were very popular in the early 2000s. Now, I'll be honest with you, I missed the entire metalcore scene in the early 2000s. I was more into the new metal stuff like Korn or System of a Down, but I discovered metalcore many years later, and Killswitch Engage was one of the bands that I've always enjoyed. I think their album, The End of Heartache, is a classic. It's a solid album. And we recently talked about their 2009 self-titled album on an episode of Is It That Bad on the Chill Dude on the Couch channel. And I actually gave it a thumbs up. I thought it was a good album, even though it's a divisive album or one that people don't like that much. But now they're in their second lineup, or I could even call it their longest running lineup. But in 2012, Howard Jones left the band. Jesse Leach, he was previously in the band before 2002, but he came back to do vocals. And the rest of the album features Mike D'Antonio on bass, Adam Dukowitz on lead guitar, Joel Strotzel on rhythm guitar, and Justin Foley on drums. The previous album was called Atonement. It was released on August 16th, 2019. I remember this album well. I enjoyed it when it came out. I know this album was pretty popular. The album Atonement had Howard Jones on one song called The Signal Fire, and I thought that was pretty cool. And it's cool that those guys are on good terms, even though Howard Jones now has his own band called Light the Torch. But this album, This Consequence, was announced last year in November. They released a single called Forever Aligned, and then in January they released another single called I Believe. So let's talk about the new album. The new album has 10 songs. It's 35 minutes long. Every song is in the 3 to 4 minute range, so pretty much what you would expect from this band. The album takes right off with the track Abandon Us, and it's some classic Killswitch Engage. It has some fast drum beats, killer metalcore style guitar riffs, and aggressive vocals. Song with some clean vocals in the middle, just as you would expect. So I thought it was a good way to kick off the album. I like the fact that they put a very fast and aggressive song in the beginning just to set the tone of the album. I'm also noticing a lot of melodic guitar work in the second half of the song, so I thought it was a nice balance of melody and aggressiveness. Next track is called Discordant Nation, and if I have to say anything negative, let me just start right here, because granted, I like it. It's fast, it's heavy. It sounded very similar to the first track, so I'm hearing a little bit of repetitiveness, but that's just a little bit of nitpicking. The song is actually offering some more stuff. It has some really intense blast beats, lots of aggression. Now, like the previous song, the second part had more melodic sections, and this track had more of a focus on the aggressive vocals as opposed to the cleans. Now, it's the third track, and I like what I'm hearing because it has a softer intro. The song is called Aftermath. I'm thinking as a third track, it works very well because the first two tracks were very fast and heavy. This is more of a contrast, although not necessarily a ballad. Still has some fast and aggressive parts. I'm just saying they took their foot off the pedal a little bit and went for a little bit more melody. In other words, one of those catchy songs still has classic heaviness and aggression. Track number 4 is the single Forever Aligned, and you probably heard this song before. You know it's a very heavy song, has intense drumming, a nice mix of clean and harsh vocals, but the song also has a catchy chorus. It's very melodic, so it's the right balance between. I thought it was a good pick for the first single because it shows the band at their two extremes, that they can get very heavy, but they still want to make some music that you can kind of sing along to. I'm a big fan of the drumming on this album in general, especially in this track. I think this album in general has some really good drumming. Now, we're in the middle of the album. It's the second single, I Believe, and seems on the song they're doing things in reverse, and by that I mean they're starting off with the more melodic side with clean vocals, and it has more of a commercial sound, and I think this was a good choice for a second single because they wanted something that was more accessible. I don't think they wanted to release this single first because people would be all over the internet saying that the band got soft and that the new album is going to suck and all that stuff. I think they got away with it as a second single. I guess you can call it a ballad. There are a few parts with harsh vocals, but it's more radio friendly. As we move towards the second half of the album, the next song is Where It Dies, and I like this one a lot. It's more of a mid-paced song. The guitar riffs are reminiscent of thrash metal, maybe even groove metal, and I think it's a little different. I think this one appeals more to the Gen X in me because it has more of that retro sound. The middle part of the song sounded more like a melodic metalcore or what I would expect. But I think out of all the songs, this one has my favorite guitar riffs. This would probably go over well before a live audience as well, because there's one part where they're chanting "kill," and I think that will be a fun song to see live. After this, there's a track called "Collusion," and it's another slower moving one. But this has lots of heavy guitar riffs with somewhat of a melodic sound and lots of those chugging guitars. This is one that, on the one hand, it's heavy enough for me to enjoy, but also melodic, but not too melodic or not too radio friendly. It's kind of in the middle. The second half of the song is awesome, has those thrashy, palm muted guitar riffs and dark and evil vocals, and that was my favorite part of the song. Now, at this point, we're on track number 7. There are 3 songs left, and this is probably the heavy song. It's called "The Fall of Us." It's just straightforward, almost like death metal. You got lots of those machine gun guitar riffs, and I've been waiting this entire review to talk about the machine gun guitar riffs because it gives me an excuse to show some B-roll taken from a Rambo movie. But what I'm trying to say is that this is their fastest, their heaviest, a nice contrast because I think their previous songs that came right before were a little lighter, so it's good to hear that they are getting heavy again. The penultimate song is called "Broken Glass." This one was a little different. They slowed it down again, but they're not sacrificing the heaviness. This is just the band playing some hardcore doom metal or something like that. It was just a very heavy song with slower rhythm and mostly harsh vocals. There are also some cleans used in the middle of the song. It's different, had a darker tone, and had blast beats. It's also a short song at 2.5 minutes. The last song is called "Requiem." It's just some straightforward metalcore. It's more of a mid-paced metalcore song, lots of different vocal styles. I thought it was pretty good. It closed out the album. It sounded like one of their safer choices. It had a sound that was more representative of the core sound. It had a lot of melodic soloing, so probably one of the songs that could have been a single, but I thought it had that type of sound. So in conclusion, let me start by saying it's a really good album. I enjoyed it, but this is an album review, and I have to critique it a little because there are a few minor issues that I had with it. The first is there's some repetitiveness, so the first 2 songs sounded very similar, and then their other songs sounded very formulaic. They could have experimented a little bit more, maybe added some different types of breakdowns or something like that. I think there were some songs where they played it safe, and I think at this point in their career, they could have tried something different, maybe go into more of a progressive metal direction or something like that. But of course, that depends on what this band wants to do. I think there were some weak moments. For example, I didn't like the song "I Believe" that much. I thought it was very radio friendly, but there were lots of tracks that I did like a lot, such as "The Fall of Us." That was one of my favorites, and I think they could have added a little more variety. But again, I'm just being kind of nitpicky just to give this a proper critique. But overall, I think it's a very good album. I will be listening to it a lot, and I'm going to still give it a high score. I'm going to give it 8.5 out of 10. Let me know what you think of this album. How does it compare to the others? And do you think it's one of the best albums in a long time? In the meantime, check out my recent review I did. And please, thanks for watching.
Please give this video a like, it helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe if you're not already. I do rock metal reviews, rankings, and more. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.